Hi everyone, my name is Katrina. Thank you so much for joining me. I am going to do a master class on how nutrition can optimize your gut microbiome. So I'll dive a little bit into what the gut microbiome is, and really the focus of this presentation is how you can use food as medicine to help you with any of your gut issues, whether that's constipation, diarrhea, having bloating, or even other symptoms like brain fog, headaches, lack of clarity, low energy, fatigue, other symptoms like that. So I'm really excited to present this information, and feel free, if you have any questions, you can drop them in the comments below. So just a little bit about me. Again, my name is Katrina. I am a pelvic floor and orthopedic physical therapist, and I'm currently practicing in the South Bay area. My business name is Whole Body Wellness and Physical Therapy, and some of my main passions are exercise, movement, preventative care, wellness, and gut health. So I know that's a lot of different things, but I really love working with clients and helping them optimize their lifestyle to improve their overall health and wellness and even prevent having issues down the line. So really using physical therapy as a platform to optimize how we're living, whether that is optimizing how and what we do for exercise, what we eat, how we eat, our sleeping, our sleep routine, our sleep hygiene, and other things like that. So this is just a slide to just start off. So are you struggling with any of these things? So whether that is constipation, having infrequent bowel movements, hard stools, or having to strain to have a bowel movement, are you experiencing bloating? So whether that is after you eat, after you drink water, or do you even have excessive gas and experience discomfort with farting, for example? Another one is abdominal pain. So if you have pain in your abdomen or even nausea. So are there foods that trigger your nausea, or do you have a lack of appetite due to feeling nauseous after you eat? And then are you struggling with any of these other things, like I mentioned, like brain fog, fatigue, low energy, depression, low mood, headaches? All of these things are actually can be correlated with um, having gut issues or even a imbalance in your gut microbiome. So in this next slide, we're going to talk a little bit about your gut microbiome and how you can use nutrition, or what you eat and how you eat, to have a healthier gut microbiome. And we'll talk about why your gut microbiome is so important. So your gut microbiome consists of microbes, which are bacteria. Um, and you want a gut microbiome that is balanced. You want a mix of good and bad bacteria, but you also want a high diversity of bacteria as well. And you also want more good bacteria than bad bacteria. So the bacteria in your gut plays a really important role. It has many different functions. It strengthens your intestinal barrier. It optimizes nutrient absorption and utilization. So your nutrients, the vitamins and minerals in your food, all of that is absorbed by your gut, and specifically by your bacteria. The gut microbiome also defends against pathogens like viruses and improves your immune system. So a fun fact is that 80% of your gut, or 80% of your immune system, is in your gut. So having a healthier gut probably means you have a stronger immune system, which means maybe you don't get sick as often, or you just have a stronger immune system to fight off any toxins in your body, any pathogens, viruses, um, cancer cells, as an example. Your gut microbiome also helps produce B vitamins and vitamin K, and also helps regulate your appetite, food intake, metabolism, and digestion. So if your gut microbiome is not balanced, if there's not a high enough diversity in the bacteria, if there's too much bad bacteria versus good bacteria, that is known as a disturbance in the gut microbiome. And this can be caused by different things like having a cold or some type of illness, going through like chemotherapy as an example, because that is toxic and it's going to affect your gut bacteria in a negative way. Having a poor diet, so eating a lot of processed foods, junk foods, foods that aren't organic or have a lot of preservatives added to it, or even being on prolonged use of antibiotics. And I could think of an example of I have a few patients right now that tend to get a lot of UTIs or BV, also known as bacterial vaginosis. And to treat that, you'll often be on antibiotics. But antibiotics is basically suppressing your bacteria in your gut. Um, and that's not good because you need your bacteria in your gut to perform all these important functions of a healthy microbiome. So there are many different factors that can cause your gut microbiome to be imbalanced or suboptimal and causing things like constipation, abdominal pain, bloating, nausea, changes in your brain, your energy levels. So this presentation is going to focus on 3 strategies you can do yourself to help optimize your gut microbiome. And a lot of these things are things you can do yourself, so you don't need to, you know, take supplements, although those are great, but just like easy things you can do and incorporate into your lifestyle to help maximize your nutrient absorption, maximize the diversity of your gut, bacteria, and so forth. So we'll dive a little bit into what to eat, how to eat, and how you should coordinate your exercise with your eating. So first we'll talk about how to eat. So a lot of people, when they're thinking about nutrition, it's all about what you're eating, like don't eat, foods that are bad for you, like processed foods, frozen foods. Um, But what's actually just as important, or maybe more important, is how you're eating your food. So we're first going to talk about food timing. So the time of day you eat your food is really important. So it's really ideal if you can coordinate your meal time with the light dark cycle of day and night. So what I highly recommend is you're eating during the daytime, so when the sun's out, and then when the night comes along, that you're not eating. So you don't want to eat, late night snacks or eating sweets at movie time around 10 p.m. That's going to be very late. So what I also recommend too is, in addition to eating during the daytime, is starting your day with early breakfast. So if you wake up at 7 o'clock, I would recommend eating breakfast within the first hour of waking up. I wouldn't delay eating your first meal until like 10 or 11 a.m. because the sun has already been out for 3 hours. And once you are up, your body starts to wake up and it's go time. Like it's time to start fueling your body with good nutrition. Research has also shown that if you start with an earlier breakfast and incorporate an earlier time-restricted feeding, it has a more positive change on the gut microbiome. So what does that mean? So it means having an early breakfast, 7 a.m., 8 a.m., and then stopping your last meal at an earlier time of your day. So instead of stopping your meal at like a 7 p.m. dinner, maybe stopping your dinner at 5 p.m. So you want to create at least a 10-hour window of not eating. That is, if that's very doable for you, you can increase that to 12 hours of not eating. But as an example, that may look like I will not eat between 6 p.m. to 4 a.m. And I'm not sure if you do wake up at 4 a.m., but you can increase that to a 12-hour window. So I will not eat between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. And it's really important that you're giving your gut like this little fasting period because that's when your body at nighttime, you know, is when your lymphatic system is working. It's processing all those toxins. It's getting rid of all that bad stuff. It's killing all those bad cells and everything like that. So good to have like a good chunk of your 24-hour cycle of not eating so your gut can reset. You can give it a little break, so it's not working 24/7. This kind of goes along with my previous point is avoiding eating in the dark period. So again, avoid those late night munchies or those snacks. Um, Night is when your functional energy metabolism is maximized. You don't want to introduce more food at this time. You want to save that nighttime to process everything that has been processed throughout the day and use that nighttime to maximize that metabolism of all those, bad things, eliminating toxins, recycling nutrients or those, again, um, toxins so that your body can eliminate it when you wake up in the morning. Now, I'll talk a little bit about in terms of how you eat the food sequencing and combination. So it's really important the sequence of how you eat. So aiming to consume, first of all, a combination of carbs, veggies, and proteins is important. A lot of people are kind of really into like low carb diets, but you need carbs because that's your energy. You need glucose to fuel your day-to-day activities. What's also really important is you should try to consume your starches after your protein and veggies. So, and that's because carbohydrates tend to have a lot more glucose, and glucose it's good because it's fuel, but you want steady glucose levels in your bloodstream. You don't want to have, a lot of chips and then you see your blood glucose levels rise and then you're feeling all this energy and then after your glucose drops you feel this low energy. Sometimes people get a food coma after they eat, this really rich meal. So making sure that you eat your starches after your protein and veggies will ensure that you don't get that high glucose spike and that it will prevent that energy crash after you eat. Another benefit to having veggies first is that it coats your small intestine and it slows down your gastric emptying. So you might be full faster. It kind of helps control how much you're eating. In addition, since carbohydrates have more glucose than veggies, when you're eating veggies first, you're kind of already filling up your stomach. So glucose from the remainder of your meal, from your carbohydrates, are absorbed at a lesser and smaller extent, and that results in a smaller glucose spike. So we don't want our glucose levels to be spiking when we eat, a bunch of bread, pasta, chips, and then after your body kind of settles after 2 to 3 hours, you get this dip, and then you feel an energy crash, fatigue, low motivation, everything like that. So making sure you're sequencing how you're eating, again, starting with your veggies, then your protein, and then your starches is a great way to optimize your glucose levels in your bloodstream without causing those energy crashes. And then I also really highly recommend a protein-focused breakfast. So avoiding those donuts, avoiding those pastries, and instead consuming a protein-heavy breakfast. So whether that's eggs or yogurt, and adding some vegetables to your omelets as an example. So whether that is spinach, mushrooms, bell peppers, onions, garlic, avocado, all of those are great to supplement to your breakfast. And I always view breakfast as one of the most important meals of the day. So if you can maximize the nutrients in your breakfast, you're starting your day off strong, and that's going to fuel your energy throughout the day. And then lastly, in terms of how you eat, we'll talk about your eating environment. So you should be chewing your food at least 30 to 40 times per bite. And now this is a lot for many people because we tend to be, eating with our friends, so we might not be focused on our chewing, we might be eating really fast, but chewing your food really allows your body adequate time for the body to release all those enzymes to get your digestion going. It also helps you break down the food better, so it's easier on your gut. So one easy way to help you chew slower is to put down your fork in between bites so that you can really focus on your chewing. If you are, let's say you are eating today and you only notice that you chew 5 bites, or 5 times per bite. I know 30 to 40 times per bite may sound a little intimidating, so maybe just do 10 times per bite. So you don't need to make a drastic change right away. Just focus on small changes that you can do that don't seem so intimidating or stressful, because you don't want eating to be stressful. You want it to be doable, enjoyable, and not causing like an increased level amount of stress. Other recommendations for your eating environment include sitting at a table and removing any distractions, stressful conversations during this time, electronics, and TV. So those are some big things. All right, so let's dive into what to eat. So now that you know how to eat, we're going to talk about what you should be eating given those eating habits. So, highly recommend that you aim for diversity. So, if you eat a diverse diet, you'll have a diverse gut microbiome. So, I highly recommend eating at least 30 different types of vegetables and fruit per week. Now, that may sound like a lot, but if you divide it into having 5 to 6 different fruits and veggies per day, that is a little easier to kind of think about or to digest in your brain. And also think about like spices can also work. So if you use like turmeric in your rice for dinner, that counts as like a spice, but also like a vegetable or fruit. Um, and what's more important is that you're eating 30 different types of vegetables and fruits. So not just like 30 servings of fruits and vegetables a week, but you should be eating diversity. So if you meal prep a lot and you tend to eat the same vegetables 3 days in a row, I recommend if you're going to do that, maybe try to have different types of vegetables, at least 5 to 6 in those 3 different meals, so that you're getting diversity. Um, Other ways you can incorporate vegetables in your meals so that's less intimidating throughout the day is adding in, like I said, if you have a omelet for breakfast, instead of just making it scrambled eggs, add some green onions, add some spinach, mushrooms, bell peppers. So it's already 4 vegetables in that one meal. So you already got 4 vegetables. So very easy to incorporate. If you're thinking about like snacks, you can have, celery sticks with some peanut butter. So again, another vegetable to incorporate instead of having chips and, those snack type of foods that aren't really that healthy. Aiming for a plant-based diet is also recommended and a rainbow diet. So trying to include different foods that have different colors because the color of the food gives different nutrients for your body. So like orange tends to give more vitamin A, which is good for your eyes, your vision, and everything like that. Snacking. So a lot of people snack, and I do think snacking is healthy because it helps maintain, um, steady blood glucose levels, and it prevents you from having that low energy. But you want to focus on healthy, optimal snacks. So going for more protein-focused snacks like hard-boiled eggs, nuts. I heard like a handful of nuts a day is also really healthy. So for example, for me, I do a lot of in-home visits for physical therapy, so I tend to have a mason jar of nuts in my car, so I can just snag a handful of nuts when I'm hungry throughout my day. Any sugary snacks or sweets, they're fine, but just don't eat them by themselves. You want to try to consume them after a meal because then your body is already kind of plumped up with that food and it prevents having those glucose spikes and then the energy crashes thus after the meal. It reduces inflammation. You have less insulin resistance and happier organs, more preserved energy. So again, snacking is great. Just kind of be mindful about what snacks you're choosing to eat. All right, so dark green leafy vegetables. So this is something I highly recommend. Um, Dark green leafy vegetables, very important because if you start off with some vegetables, again, very important to start off, it coats your digestive system and it helps aid in quicker colon motility. So if you're struggling with constipation or having very infrequent bowel movements, starting your diet with a lot of vegetables can help with that. So another important fact that I learned a few years ago from this doctor was that Dark leafy green vegetables have a more of a bitter taste, so it releases that stomach acid and digestive enzymes. So it helps prep your digestive system to have all of that prepared, so that once you're eating more of your meal, your gut is ready to digest that food. So options include like kale, endive, mustard greens, dandelion greens, collard greens, and spinach. Um, Ways to incorporate that if you're not really like a kale person could be just adding it into a smoothie. Ginger is also really great for bloating and gas. So something I really like to eat or drink is having ginger tea. So I will slice a few slices of ginger, add it into a thermos of hot water, and I'll let it sit in my thermos for 3 to 4 hours. So when I drink it, it's pretty gingery in taste. It's spicy, it's really good. And ginger acts as a prokinetic, so it helps speed up movement in your intestines. So again, perfect if you have slow colon motility, if you have constipation, if you have SIBO. Another thing with SIBO is that typically, so what that stands for is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. So most of the bacteria in your digestive system should be in your large intestine. But SIBO simply means that you're having excess bacteria in your small intestine. So basically, bacteria is flowing backwards into your small intestine. So having ginger can help like make sure that the food is moving and digesting at a good pace so that the bacteria and food is not going backwards in your digestive system. Another thing is like being consistent. So your gut microbiome can have a positive composition change within 24 hours of just the changes that you make in your diet. But what's also important to note is that if you go back to, your suboptimal diet of snacks and processed foods, that will immediately change your gut microbiome within 24 hours. So it's really important that if you are, making all these changes in your diet, how you eat and what you eat, is that you're making those habits long term and you're being consistent with them because that way you're having a more permanent change on your gut microbiome. So that's something really important to note. So it's going to take obviously a lot of effort in the beginning if you are not used to all these changes, but just start small. Pick one thing out of this list to start with, maybe 1.5 or 1.25 list to start with. And just think about what you can add to your diet. Sometimes people are really into like the like elimination diet is what I was looking for. But if you think, when people think elimination diet, they're thinking like, okay, I have nothing to eat. But you want to think of like food as fuel and nutrition and as nourishment for your body. So think of it in that mindset instead of thinking about like, what do I have to eliminate? Because if you're thinking about what you have to eliminate, you're probably thinking, oh, I have to eliminate almost everything I'm eating, and that's not very encouraging. So again, just think about today, maybe what can I add into my diet for today? Other things that are great are vitamin D. So vitamin D helps optimize your gut microbiome in their upper GI tract, helps reduce pathogens, increases your diversity in your bacteria in your gut. And different ways to incorporate vitamin D are getting sunlight at least 10 minutes per day, no sunscreen, no sunglasses. Other sources of vitamin D are salmon, dairy, egg yolks. Also, adding in culinary spices to your food are also really great ways to help promote good bacteria in your gut. So we have oregano, black pepper, cayenne pepper, turmeric, ginger, cinnamon, rosemary, basil, parsley, cilantro, all of those things are really great. So if you are, making like a stir fry vegetable, see if you can add some spices to those foods instead of just like salt. Garlic is also a really great one. Ginger, again, those are two very common spices I tend to cook with. And then antioxidants food. So berries are really great options. Antioxidants help fight those radicals, those like cancer, precursor to cancer cells. Especially blackberries have one of the strongest antioxidant capacities. So raspberries are good, strawberries are also good, but other forms of antioxidants is like matcha. So I have matcha at least 3 times a week because of its antioxidant properties. It's a form of green tea, but it has the whole leaf. So it's very healthy and has a lot of good properties for your gut. So now that we kind of breeze through what to eat and how to eat, I'm going to talk a little bit about more lifestyle factors and how you can incorporate movement in relative to your eating sequence and so forth. So highly recommend a morning routine. So aiming for 10 minutes of outdoor sunlight upon waking up is great because just exposing your eyes to the outdoor sunlight is a great way to um, reset your circadian rhythm. It gets your colon motility going. Also just helps start your day off fresh. Movement snacks are also really great. Um, so many of us tend to sit for prolonged periods of time, whether we're sitting at a desk for 8 hours a day, and then we might work out for 30 minutes. But what I actually encourage my clients to do is instead of like chunking your exercise in just like 30 minutes at the end of the day, I encourage more like movement snacks. So think about small ways you can incorporate movement into your day so it's less intimidating. So a lot of people don't really like when I recommend, how can you incorporate 45 minutes of exercise into your day? That's going to sound like a lot. So instead of thinking about like a big chunk of exercise, think about how you can incorporate movement throughout your day. So whether that is a 10-minute walk after you have lunch, or maybe a 3-minute stretch routine every hour at work. So if you stretch, 1 to 2 minutes after every meeting, and let's say you have 10 meetings a day, that is like 20 minutes of exercise, but instead you incorporated it throughout the day. And I love movement snacks because it helps hydrate your tissues throughout the day. Sitting for prolonged periods of time cause your tissues to get dehydrated, tight, and stiff. So you might feel like, oh, my back hurts after sitting for prolonged periods of time. So if you're starting to experience that, instead of thinking about, okay, I'm going to stretch at the end of my day to help resolve my back pain, think about, I am going to pick 1 or 2 stretches throughout my workday to do every hour so I can help hydrate my tissues, improve blood flow to my muscles and fascia and my connective tissue so that I'm not experiencing that pain. So again, taking a more preventative approach and more holistic approach instead of just chunking up exercise. Even vacuuming the house is also, I can consider some type of movement. I wouldn't consider it exercise, but it's a great way to move your body if you have a tendency to sit for prolonged periods of time. All right, the type of exercise. So longer duration of exercise and higher intensity of exercise allows for more oxygen to reach your brain and your bloodstream. And your gut needs a lot of good blood flow. Blood flow provides nutrients to your gut. It provides oxygen. It provides the fuel to allow your gut bacteria to flourish. Low intensity exercise is also great because it also reduces your stool time, so the amount of time it takes food to move through your digestive tract. So like walking 45 minutes is also great to help stimulate your gut, which is ideal for constipation. I would highly recommend avoiding high intensity exercise at least 3 to 4 hours before bed. And that's because your body is winding down 3 to 4 hours before bed. So you want to kind of supplement movement that matches that. So things like yoga, breathing, stretching, a gentle walk after dinner would be ideal. If you want to do like a high intensity CrossFit workout, I'd probably do that more during the daytime. Again, not during nighttime or anytime after like 5 or 6 p.m. Another thing you can think about is diaphragmatic breathing a minute before and after meals to stimulate digestion. So your diaphragm is a really important muscle that's at your below your rib cage, and when you breathe in and out, your diaphragm really essentially massages your colon. So it's a great natural way to stimulate colon motility. Very easy, again, a very easy way to incorporate movement throughout your day, tagging it with some type of activity. So where do I start? So I guess, oh, one more important thing I wanted to mention is bowel movements. So bowel movements are also really important, and especially as a pelvic floor PT, I'm always encouraging people to have regular bowel movements because bowel movements is your way of eliminating toxins and excess stuff or like the bad bacteria, the pathogens, any toxins in your body, so that you're not restoring those in your body or reabsorbing those. So having very, very good regular bowel movements is good. It's going to um, make sure that your gut bacteria is happy. So if you're not having a regular bowel movement, ideally like once a day, then highly recommend seeing a pelvic floor physical therapist to see what may be causing you to have infrequent bowel movements or constipation. So where do I start? So again, this might sound all very new to you, and if it sounds very stressful, I don't want it to be stressful. So start with small things. So start with like pick 1 to 2 things that you can do that may seem like the easiest things you can do. Um, I don't want these strategies to feel like a chore or a stressor, because if you're stressed about how you're eating and what to eat, that's not good because you should be relaxed and calm when you're eating. You shouldn't be in this upregulated, stressful state. How to eat is also a very easy way to get started. So, an easy way to maybe change how you're eating is maybe instead of eating in front of the TV tonight, you are going to eat at a table without your phone. Very easy. And I think if you're looking for guidance, like knowing who your wellness team is, so that may include like a functional medicine doctor, physical therapist, acupuncturist, personal trainer, and really building your wellness team because it isn't just, again, what you eat, but how you're eating, your exercise, even your sleep, which I didn't discuss. But if you have poor sleep, maybe working with a sleep doctor to help you improve your sleep quality and your sleep hygiene. Other things, this is a good segue, other things that affect your overall gut microbiome. We talked a little bit about exercise, sleep. Again, not only how many hours you're sleeping, but the quality of your sleeping habits. Do you tend to take a lot of naps throughout the day? Things like that. Also, like what your bedtime routine is, 3 to 4 hours before you sleep. So, for example, eliminating use of electronics before you go to bed. All of that has to do with your sleep. Environmental toxins. So maybe if you're exercising, choosing not to run next to a freeway, or maybe the clothes that you're buying, choosing to wear organic cotton clothing, clothing that doesn't contain a lot of toxins in it, like estrogens, things like that. Mindfulness and stress management. So there are so many different contributing factors to optimizing your gut microbiome. I wanted today to kind of focus more on nutrition and a little bit on exercise to help facilitate that. So I hope this was helpful, and I hope that you can start, incorporating some easy steps to help optimize your gut. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to email me. I'll put my email in the comments below or in my show notes below. And then, yeah, feel free to comment if you have any questions or thoughts.